Hello and welcome everyone, it's Capcan here, and today we're gonna talk about all the changes that comes with pre-patch to classes in World of Warcraft Dragonflight, how pre-patch is gonna be like paced, and yeah, let's just go with it. I guess so that's a Wowhead article. So here we see our schedule for pre-patch and later like expansion release. As you can see, 25th October, I guess that's in North American regions start of pre-patch. In like Europe it's gonna be day later, in Wednesday, just as our usual weekly resets. So yeah, here comes our pre-patch. Our currently playable races now choose mage, rogue, so yeah, additional classes available for different races, mage, rogue and priest. So yeah, you can get your Tauren rogues and stuff. New talent system will be launched for all classes, which means that our talent trees that were like so cool, and we have all of them on my channel, is gonna be released with pre-patch, so it's either today or tomorrow, depending on where do you live. Primal Storms event, which rewards eye level 252 catch-up gear, toys, and a new heirloom trinket. So yeah, that's a catch-up event that is gonna be taking place in the world of Azeroth during pre-patch. Winds of Wisdom, 50% experience buffs continues through the part of pre-patch for players up to level 60. Are you for real? So Winds of Wisdom continue even through like start of pre-patch. Oh, that's very cool. So yeah, and as you can see, it's gonna end on November 15th when it's gonna be Evoker release. So yeah, and at November 15th, Draktyr race will be playable for those who have pre-ordered Dragonflight, and Forbidden Reach, the Draktyr starting zone will be available for new level 58 Draktyr Evokers. Draktyr will be able to advance from 58 to 60. Alright, and then full expansion release, of course, comes on the November 28th. Level cap will be increased to 70. Players will be able to venture into Dragon Isles, stuff like that. So yeah, that's what it was like a quick rundown of how the expansion is gonna release. And now we have pretty interesting information from Wowhead guide creators. They've compiled a little bit of info for us, for everyone, about the classes and class changes in general. We've saw their talents. I haven't really seen all the skills of all classes and subclasses, and probably I'm gonna make videos about every class when the pre-patch is gonna hit live servers. But yeah, we're gonna see it. We're gonna maybe like check the gameplay. But now we have quick thoughts from people who create guides, who have knowledge of the classes. Yeah, so let's go with, I guess, yeah. So here we have general stuff. Most of your class expected abilities and spells are still there. All classes can expect the following. Most of your classes expected abilities and spells are still there, but may require getting them through talents rather than having them assigned automatically as you level. Yeah, which means that there is now cost to you for taking some utility skills, maybe some even damage skills, healing skills. So yeah, everything is gonna come at some cost now. Covenant and legendary powers will still work during pre-patch, but will cease to work once the full Dragonflight expansion releases, which is quite logical, and that's how it works every single time. So yeah, now you can still play, because there's like roughly there's roughly a month until the Dragonflight itself, and people still probably want to raid or maybe like dungeon at cap level, because not everyone wants to level up new characters, or maybe some people, of course, have all characters leveled up already. Some Covenant and Legendary abilities have been converted into talents. Yeah, and that's quite logical as well. By the way, I don't really know how it's gonna work on the level 60, but yeah, we've saw that already in previous like videos when we were looking at talents. So yeah, Death Knight changes in Dragonflight pre-patch. Blood Death Knights don't see a lot of alteration from their role as a self-healing shadow damage tank, and the mechanic remain much the same. There is a bit more reliance on Death and Decay for the buffs it provides, and there are new interactions to help with your self-healing and damage. Blood Death Knight will remain a powerhouse going forward into Dragonflight. So as you can see, everything is gonna be quite fine with Dragonflight, with Blood Death Knights. as we've saw before. Yeah, and talent tree, their talent tree looked quite good, so can't really see anything about it, like bad, I mean. Likewise, Frost Death Knights wouldn't see a lot of difference in basic gameplay or rotation. Yeah, Frost Death Knights talent trees were definitely on a like not much new note. However, two-handed builds are far less powerful in pre-patch due to the high talent costs needed for Might of the Frozen Wastes, sacrificing the ability to adopt Obliteration. That said, the Frost Death Knight will be very strong in Dragonflight with a dual-wield build, bringing great single target and cleave damage. Okay, and Unholy in Death Knights are still the undisputed monarchs of high burst damage and will remain so in Dragonflight. Rotation remains similar but is made smoother with less downtime with lower cost for Death Coil, freeing up resources for other attacks. Unfortunately, Unholy Death Knights wouldn't be seeing raid utility added to their list of tricks, and as I can recall, Unholy Death Knights have a bunch of Necrolord talents where you not Necrolord, I mean like Necromancer talents where you will have an ability to summon a little bit more different undead ghouls and stuff, which can be quite cool from visuals and stylistic standpoint. Demon Hunter changes in Dragonflight pre-patch 10.0. Havoc Demon Hunters will be getting some welcome changes to their rotation, as well as different builds for both AoE and single target play. Secondary stat scaling has been greatly improved, and the addition of multiple critical strike scaling talents will improve DPS along with improvements to eye levels, something the Havoc Demon Hunter has been lacking. Burst damage has also been improved through changes to the rotation with Eye Beam and Essence Break, as has new utility and added survivability. To be honest, I'm not really that hot on Demon Hunters myself, which means that, yeah, when I was looking at talent trees of Demon Hunters, I'm not really like that much of an expert. Maybe on some other classes I have way bigger experience. With Demon Hunters, I guess we can just believe the guide writers. Vengeance Demon Hunters, used to Season 3 for 4 tier sets with Spirit Bomb spamming, will need to rethink their rotation in pre-patch, since those sets will not work. Frailty will add both survivability and damage output, particularly when taking advantage of the synergistic qualities Spirit Bomb, Void River, Vulnerability, and Soul Crush. It will require a more disciplined rotation to take full advantage of the system without having to rely so heavily on offensive cooldowns. And again, Demon Hunters, not that big of an expert. Druid changes in the Dragonflight pre-patch. So balanced druids were strong in Shadowlands and will remain strong in Dragonflight pre-patch, perhaps even overpowered. Single target damage remains similar, although AoE sees more changes with the ability to stack Starfall and the requirement to apply more dots AoE due to Mastery Astral Invocation. Yeah, so balanced druid definitely looked hella good, especially when they've got that reworked talent tree. So they've got one of the most recent, full complete reworks. It maybe was 2-3 weeks, maybe, closer to 3 weeks ago, when they've received complete overhaul of their talent tree, and it looked very cool. There was definitely different ways for you to tinker and play with your class. So I guess Balanced Druid's gonna be good. Guardian Druid is also in good shape with some new talents, such as Elune Favored. That's like your arcane damage Guardian Druid, which there was quite a heavy emphasis in talent tree on that. Ursoc's Guidance, again some additional stuff, and Twin Moonfire to add to the Fast and Furious fun. There are some downsides, however, such as losing the second charges of Survival Instincts and Frenzy Regeneration unless you're willing to invest the talent points. So yeah, with Guardian Druid there was very clear indication of you taking paths either to have more self-sustain and defense, or having more damage combined with some defense as well, but more damage and maybe arcane damage as well. So maybe and AoE clearing, helping abilities. So yeah, Guardian Druids, but it's good that it's in good shape. Feral Druid has a core abilities that will seem familiar, but there will be a key difference in the overall rotation. Yeah, and that's of course because Feral Druid, it had quite there's gonna be a right way to say it. Feral Druids never was a simple subclass. They were always like kinda hard to master and having pretty like very specific rotation, there was quite a big changes for Feral Druids in Dragonflight Talents, which means that this rotation probably will drastically change just because of its specificity and like non-simplicity. Sabertooth functions quite differently. Some previous talents are also returning to the game, such as Blood Talents. With Feral Frenzy no longer locked to it as it once was. The build isn't a total standout in any one area, but it has decent utility to add to any group. So yeah, Feral Druids, at least the community, if like I'm correct, the community of Feral Druids were quite happy with changes. And because that's such a specific specialization, it may not be even broken. It may not be like overpowered and stuff, and they still will be happy because of the specificity of the specialization itself. The community is more dedicated to it, and it will play this class if it's bad, if it's good. The main reason for them to play it probably because they like it and they want it to be interesting and fun. So that's maybe like. But again, so there is like no comments that is gonna be bad. Restoration Druids will be happy with the fluidity the new Restoration talent tree provides, which doesn't force some of the same choices required of the old talent system. While the rotation will remain similar, you'll have better access to abilities such as Germination and new synergies with Life Bloom that make them very strong healer in pre-patch and beyond. Yeah, so like Restoration Druids were hella bonkers cool. They've had so much cool talents. They have so much like choices in like with where do you want to go, how do you want to tailor your rotation, how do you want to heal your allies, do you want like more dots, do you want like more AoEs, so like I really liked Restoration Druids, and we can see clearly that they're not in a bad position. Hunter changes in Dragonflight pre-patch 10.0. Beastmastery Hunters doesn't represent a fundamental change to the spec, but it does offer some new AoE options through Kill Cleave and some new survivability through Survival of the Fittest and buffs to the Survival of the Fittest and Natural Mending. High Explosive Trap also offers some mass knockback fun to the mix. There are also some small group utility through Sentinel Owl, although this has more application to small group sedation than in raid. So yeah, Beast Mastery Hunters, they work a simple, very simple specialization, and they are still that simple specialization. You have like quite a bunch of talents that just they like re-cooldown your active abilities, they make less cooldowns on them, they like make proc 1 out of them, but like your core rotation is still spammy as hell, it's simple as hell, and it's probably not gonna be bad, but it's just like this very simple class that is definitely has very clear style, and like probably it has very clear player base for it. Like Beastmaster Marksmanship Hunters wouldn't see much change in their niche, role or utility, but will get a few extra goodies in form of Death Blow and Dead Eye. Yeah, so you're gonna like proc your kill shots, you're gonna have chance to proc your kill shots on targets that are not low life, and you're just like you're shooting at the enemy, and then you can weave in some kill shots. And adding welcome synergy to kill shots. Heavy ammo will improve on damage to 3-4 targets, a common target count for ad packs in raids and mythic class. So yeah, Marksmanship Hunters, their talent tree was definitely good. It didn't had too much like something just crazy new, but it was just good, and it's definitely not as like simplistic as Beast Mastery, just in the style of the specialization itself. Survival hunters will also find pre-patch to be familiar territory. Some of the talent choices put up win some, lose some choices, such as losing Serpent Sting while being able to pack in Tip of the Spear, Flanking Strike, and Mongoose Bite for improved single target damage. So yeah, most of the survival talents, I'm not like have way less experience of survival hunter than marksmanship or beast mastery, but still, survival hunters, they definitely have cool stuff. Before, in your talents, you had to choose between some cool talents and they were like exclusionary, but now you can take both of them, and that's, even that alone, pretty cool, but nothing really, again, that much new to the class. To be honest, like hunters are already packed with such a huge amount of different things that they have, with like traps as additional mechanics, some like just utilitarian stuff, their pet abilities, then their own abilities, that it's quite hard probably to get something like totally new into them, which means that yeah, probably it may not feel the same in case that you can take a couple of talents that were previously exclusive, like you were getting either one or another, and now you can combine them, but you're not gonna get like completely new stuff. Mage changes in Dragonflight pre-patch. Arcane Mage wouldn't see any changes that will affect their overall meta, but there are some nice changes. Mobility is improved with access to Shimmer or Ice Flows, and the addition of Slipstream, something that's always been an issue for the class. So yeah, as you know, Slipstream is when you're like clear casting gives you a way to move while you're shooting arcane missiles, or evocation while you're channeling evocation, you can move as well. Now you can combine, which means that of course you will have way better like mobility, and that's cool. Utility spells such as Blast Wave or Dragon's Breath expand their utility. Hard choices will need to be made in the bottom of the arcane talent tree, with many good choices are not enough points to spend on all of them, which is 100% good, and that's what it should be. It's like it's talent tree where it means like that you need to have you need to have an urge to take all the talents, but you don't have enough points, which means that you're making very interesting choice, and you're like having different builds, enjoying different parts of your class. So yeah, Arcane Mage I've like, that was one of my more like old ones videos about Arcane Mage talent tree, but it definitely it wasn't like bad. Fire Mage enjoys better survivability with big defensives such as greater invisibility, Cauterize, and Ice Block, and remains the most mobile of the three mage specs. In addition, there's better execute options with Controlled Destruction and Improved Scorch. There is some flexibility in the Fire Tree, but Fire Mages may be tempted to invest heavily more in a single target or AoE due to the tasty synergies involved. Fire Mages do become very dependent on Hot Streak procs and cooldowns to sustain damage. But Hot Streaks were always... you were always dependent on them in order to deal like good damage. Yeah, Fire Mages, as I recall, they were good. Man, I just need to... Yeah, when you're going through like 36 and even like with Evoker even more different talent trees, you forget some of them almost completely. Holy moly. Of the three specs, Frost Mage players will see the most changes, mostly in terms of adding utility and survivability, including greater invisibility, Dragon's Breath, and adding snare removal to energized barriers. Icicles get new synergies with the addition of Splintering Cold and Hailstones. These are just a few of the changes Frost Mages can look forward to that will improve the spec's overall strength. So as you can see, Frost Mages definitely get more stuff than other mages, and that's of course great. So Monk changes in Dragonflight pre-patch 10.0. Brewmaster will feel very different compared to how it played in Shadowlands, requiring management of a much larger toolkit of powerful skills, but with a much bigger management job. The good news is that this adds a lot of power to Brewmasters, but it will require some serious rethinking of your rotation and techniques. There are now 6 offensive cooldowns at your disposal, which is a lot to manage, and Rising Sun Kick hits like a train. There are also powerful defensive cooldowns, such as gaining both Dump and Harm and Bob and Weave. This will be a very powerful class, but there will be some learning curve to get back into the swing of things. It looks like the Brewmaster Monk is getting some serious love for Dragonflight, which is long overdue. So yeah, as you can see, Brewmasters gonna be hella fun, gonna be hella different, and that's great. Mistweaver Monks also see big changes. They will benefit from added fluidity of the talent tree, as well as synergies created that were not possible before with the more limited talent options. Renewing Mist in particular will get some big synergies with such as Dancing Mist, Rapid Diffusion, and Vivify. The ability of the Spirit of the Crane to turn Blackout kicks into mana during downtime makes this hitting powerhouse even more unstoppable. There are huge numbers of fascinating combinations of spells that were not even possible before. So yeah, again, when you're taking more more divergent, more like specific and not as simple class, and you're creating this talent tree, you're getting it different ways to play, it feels way more interesting and way more different one to another, like builds one to another, than when you're giving some options to the more simple classes, which means that yeah, monks were always quite like, they were a bit different. They were definitely not your standard, just like plain and simple classes. And that means that with like talent trees, it's gonna be even more apparent. Out of the 3, Windwalker Monk will see the fewest big changes, although there are definite improvements to resource availability. That said, it may still feel quite different due to some of the new possible talent combinations. It will remain primarily an AoE damage high mobility spec, particularly with a high number of interesting synergies with Rising Sun Kick, Shadow Boxing Treads. Will also maintain Mark of the Crane on multiple targets with minimal upkeep. Although the Windwalker will remain one of the best AoE specialists in game. Well, you know, I want to comment on at least one thing. They're saying that like this class is gonna be one of the best, this class is gonna be one of the best, and with all the changes, it definitely feels like you're getting better, like more and stuff, but there are probably will be a little bit different picture in the end, and not every like DPS subclass is gonna be the same in terms of their output, in terms of their like speciality and stuff like that. So take all this like it's gonna be great with a grain of salt, and then it's gonna be okay. But probably most of the classes, or maybe even all of them, are gonna be way more interesting and you will have way more choice. Paladin changes in Dragonflight pre-patch. Holy Paladins get some welcome additions to their toolkit, although very little change to their core strengths or of strong spot and tank healing. The new talent system allows for a more caster build, focusing on holy power while spending infusion of light procs on holy light. This is further helped by talents such as resplendent light, divine revelations, and imbued infusions, while the holy paladin does gain some ground between Shadowlands and Dragonflight pre-patch. Other healing specs also gained a lot, perhaps more, which means the Holy Paladin won't see a huge rise in overall popularity. So yeah, Holy Paladins were okay, and it definitely, like, you can saw that in the talent tree, but yeah, especially if you want to compare it to like Restoration Druid, holy moly. Restoration Druid like feels just awesome, and Holy Paladins probably will just feel a bit better with a bit more like with a bit more diversity, yeah, I guess like that. Yeah, and Retribution Paladins are like, Okay, Protection Paladins. We'll see two major changes. Avenger Shield no longer generates Holy Power, and Holy Shield has been reworked to be a traditional block mechanic with an equipped shield while facing your target. This means Holy Shield no longer works on periodic magic damage, but you will have Mastery, Divine Bulwark while standing in Consecration to help pick up the slack. So yeah, and by the way, Consecration will see way more game time and gameplay throughout the either all paladins, subclasses, or protection and retribution. Like most specs, the new talent trees give more options and fun customizations and synergies. Protection paladin is still one of the strongest tanks in the game, which is okay. That's definitely sounds cool, especially like monks getting reworked. Interesting. The gameplay of Retribution Paladin wouldn't change much in Dragonflight pre-patch, with the same main cooldowns and its emphasis on burst damage and niche utility. Overall damage will be somewhat better in pre-patch than it was in Shadowlands, with powerful options such as Radiant Decree. Yeah, and Retribution Paladins they definitely didn't see as much changes as many other classes. So maybe they I'm not saying either they will be bad or good. I'm not really that proficient, and I'm not like that expertised in all the in like my theory crafting, but they definitely are not gonna be as fun to tinker with as many other classes. Still though, better than previously. So now Priest changes, Dragonflight. Discipline Priest still plays much as it did since Mid-Legion, and pre-patch will not change this much. One major change is the defensive improvement and shorter cooldown of Power Word Shield, which means you never need to leave home without it. Discipline's damage output struggled in late Shadowlands, and unfortunately it's unlikely to do significantly better in pre-patch. However, it still has a lot to offer in terms of burst healing, and the improvements to Power Word Shield is welcome addition to this toolkit. The addition of Light's Wrath from the Legion scrap heap will add to this goodness. Well, to be honest, in my opinion, Discipline Priests, so again, these guys definitely know way more and way better than I do, and that means if they're telling you that it probably wouldn't really have that much improvements comparatively to what it was in Shadowlands, that means that it's probably true. But to be honest, in my opinion, talent trees for Discipline Priests looked interesting. There was definitely enough ways for you to change your playstyle, add more different shadow stuff, add more holy stuff to that, more utility. Yeah, so in my opinion, Discipline Priests, they looked interesting. I don't really know if they are gonna be good or not, and especially again, if you were to compare it to some druids, maybe shamans. I don't know what it will say about the shamans, but shamans did definitely they look cool. Maybe they're not as strong or stuff like that, but yeah. But Discipline Priests, they're definitely interesting. Holy Priest should be immensely powerful for spot heal, support, and overhealing. The combination of Lightweaver and Masochism give you a near permanent 10% damage reduction on yourself, and the new talent Power Word Life is a great addition on players below 35%, providing another great emergency heal when it's most needed. Holy Priest remains a top-notch raid healer with two excellent raid cooldowns, Divine Hymn and Holy Word Salvation. While Holy Priests have always struggled with personal defense, there are options to play with it in the talent trees you might wish to explore if this becomes an overall issue. So yeah, there were definitely some additional damage reductions to the Holy Priests, and that's what they've lacked for quite a long time. They didn't really look that changed, but they definitely looked improved in terms of their efficiency. That's the so maybe it's two opposing things with Discipline and Holy Priest. So Holy Priest, they're not really looking that. You definitely don't see as much interesting stuff put into them, new interesting stuff, but you definitely see improvements with their power. And with Disciplined Priests, maybe it's not as much power given to them, but it's definitely interesting how you can play with the talent tree and yeah, just like play with the specialization. Strictly speaking, Shadow Priests are getting different abilities rather than improved ones, allowing them to do similar functions a little more easily. Shadow Crush helps apply dots on a mass scale, AoE is less flexible and requires more planning. Removing Mind Seer as an AoE insanity generator causes some issues. Shadow in pre-patch will remain predominantly a single target specialist, but the lack of much substantive change will be a disappointment to Shadow Priest players. So yeah, there was like again, maybe from the point of like, yeah, and look, I've played Shadow Priests quite extensively in Shadowlands. I know how they play. I saw the talent tree, and the talent tree looked cool. Maybe it wouldn't be, if I'm correct, maybe it wouldn't be as like powerful, and it didn't really had as much new stuff, but you definitely can combine different things from previous that you couldn't combine before, and it was quite interesting as well. But yeah, maybe some like missing stuff like insanity generation on Mindseer. Yeah, it definitely can like hurt specialization just in terms of their performance. Rogue changes in Dragonflight pre-patch. Assassination Rogue sees only minor changes. Going from Shadowlands to Dragonflight, wait a second. But are they though? Like Rogue talent tree, their general talent tree was such an like mind-blowing stuff. So yeah, in your general Rogue talent tree, you have like these 3 routes that goes down, and they were very like split up. I'm gonna even see that now. Tools, talent tree, Dragonflight talent tree. Yeah, so let's check it out for quite a second. We have our rogue. Yeah, either ways. So yeah, it still goes like this, and you have access to Shadow Dance in any use of like all Shadow stealth abilities. I don't know if they don't get anything new, because general talent tree is definitely very it's quite unusual in terms of all the talent trees if you were to compare them. And there is definitely things that assassination that like all rogues, they didn't had access to things that there are on the general talent tree, but who knows? So sees only minor changes going from, maybe it's in terms of your core rotation and core things that you can do from Shadowlands to Dragonflight pre-patch. Assassins do enjoy a plethora of Covenant abilities translated to talents. They can choose Echoing Reprimand, as well as Serrated Bone Spike and Sepsis. Yeah, most of the changes to assassination come in the form of diversity rather than new strengths, but that added flexibility will allow you to create the assassin of your dreams. The addition of Kingsbane and Shadow Dance, oh yeah, will just add to the fun. So yeah, as you can see, that's more of utilitarian additions, which means that if you can like play with it and you can get some additional cool stuff from it, but probably your core rotation, your core strengths, they haven't really changed that much. Outlaw Rogue is exceptionally strong moving into Dragonflight pre-patch. While it doesn't get the plethora of Covenant abilities, only Echoing Reprimand, the spec has never depended highly on these anyway. Most of the abilities lost were not important anyway, especially when compared to the addition of Dreadblades to Restless Blades, which speeds up rotation and give you more of every resource the spec has to offer. Synergies improve uptime of Roll the Bones, and all the spec will shine in pre-patch. Yeah, Outlaw Rogues, they looked very like good, and their talent tree were... It was like very strictly, again, it was very strictly separated, not in terms of it not having all these like diagonal parts where you can switch from like one part of the tree to another rapidly, but it was separated in terms of what do you want from different parts of the talent trees. So yeah, Outlaw Rogues are gonna be bonkers, okay. quite good. Subtlety Rogue will see little change to its rotation, which is welcome because its rotation is already one of the most complicated in-game. They can access Flagellation in the Subtlety tree and Echoing Reprimand in their class. Quality of life changes come through improvements to Premeditation and Replicating Shadows. Several abilities give you more combo points per strike, with which probably greatly speeds up the generator spender rotation. Shadow Dance takes center stage in the Subtlety tree. While Subtlety has always been a single target specialist, the new talent trees help shore up some of the major weaknesses of the build, particularly low target cleave. This creates a more well-rounded kit to a class that improved steadily throughout Shadowlands. So yes, Subtlety Rogue, they were looking cool, and I just love Subtlety Rogue. I just love the aesthetics. I love all the animations that goes when you're in Shadow Dance with like your Shadow Strike, and there was quite a bunch of different talents that you can improve your, I guess, if I'm correct, your Shadow Dance, either like its uptime or its efficiency. You will deal more damage while you're out of it. You will have more AoE talents. It's just very cool. Maybe, yeah, it's probably wouldn't be as powerful as Outlaw Rogue if they're not gonna change everything drastically when the expansion starts. But Subtlety Rogue seemed and looked juicy. Shaman changes in Dragonflight. Elemental Shaman doesn't see much gameplay change in Dragonflight. Pre-patch, the strength of spenders has been reduced, although the power of generators has increased. And that's one of the it's one of the key stuff that World of Warcraft needs to do more, because generators suck too much and spenders deal too much damage. Not in terms of that your specs are overpowered, but in terms of comparatively to generators, they were dealing too much damage, and that means that you're just bored when you have your generators, and you're building up that power, and then you can blast, and then you're again building up that power. That problem was quite obvious with paladins, with their Holy Strike, because sometimes you just don't want to press your core abilities, and that's shit, and you have to change it. Talent builds don't end up changing much, with a heavy focus on Storm Elemental. The spec doesn't receive any significant changes or improvements, meaning that it's not likely to gain more popularity in pre-patch. Yeah, so Elemental Shamans, they've looked quite similar to what they were in Shadowlands, but with their their ice build was it seemed like a little bit more of an option, which is of course cool. You can spec more into your lightning or your fire or your maybe frost damage or your earth general elemental damage. And from stylistic points of view, Elemental Shaman looked pretty good. Its talent tree was good enough. Maybe not from gameplay and rotation and min-maxed builds, but yeah, the talent tree itself was pretty decent, at least in my opinion. On the other hand, Enhancement Shaman has seen across the board improvements to their abilities. Not so much a playstyle change, but good augmentations and synergies that improve the existing toolkit. Spells enhanced by Maelstrom weapon spenders hit significantly harder. Crush Lightning has reduced targets against more than 6 targets, but hits those fewer targets for more power. Gathering Storms, Doom Winds, and Sundering have also seen big buffs. Just to name a few, enhancements seems to follow in the footsteps of other small target AoE specialists, focusing on the sub-6 size group, which coincidentally is the usual size of Raid and Mythic Plus ad packs. With a flexible talent tree, lots of great buffs and synergies, and more durability, Enhancement Shaman will need little effort to improve their overall power in pre-patch. So yeah, Enhancement Shamans definitely was looking hot for me, especially. I like the visuals of the class. I like style of it. And it was definitely way better in terms of how you can change everything. How do you want to deal your AoE damage? How do you want to deal your single target damage? Again, with some with more emphasis on either your lava damage or your lightning damage, and more stylistic differences that you can weave into your specialization. Talent tree of enhancement shamans looked cool. Maybe it's not gonna be like the hottest specialization in the game in terms of its, again, efficiency, but it was very, very cool from stylistic point of view. Restoration Shaman will likely make a great use of talent loadouts with a wide and flexible toolkit that allows them to customize to every type of gameplay they might encounter. They have an amazing array of healing abilities and synergies available to them, impossible to pick them all up on one build, but able to target specific types of content. It's an enviable flexibility not all healers will be able to match, especially priests probably. Restoration Shaman also have the ability to pick up Primordial Wave, which frees up Necrolord Shaman in pre-patch to try out another Covenant and not lose their ability. Oh yeah, so you would be able to like, yeah, but that's for pre-patch. That's for 1 month of content that like 2% of population plays. So yeah, I guess like Restoration Shamans with both their general talent tree and their specific talent tree, their like specialization talent tree, there is just a bunch of different things that you can do in terms of dispelling stuff, in terms of buffing stuff, in terms of debuffing enemies, in terms of just more raw heals on single target, more heals on AoE, more mana efficiency. Just, yeah, very, very flexible, which makes them quite cool. And especially with build, again, because of the foundation of the class is very wide already. It's not simple class. It doesn't have like only one type of like style to it. It has all the totems which are buffs, or it has like healing, it has damage, yeah, and you can of course spec more into damage with all the general talent tree stuff. It has like different ways to gain or not gain more mobility, be more of a like buff debuff specialization. So yeah, pretty cool. Warlock changes in Dragonflight pre-patch. Affliction Warlock's position as the ladder of mass dote specialist remains unchallenged in Dragonflight pre-patch. It wouldn't play much differently than normal, with one caveat. In pre-patch, Drain Soul may surprisingly become the bulk of your single target damage due to the interaction between the talent tree and the Necrolord Covenant ability Decimating Bolt. This wouldn't carry beyond pre-patch since the only Warlock Covenant ability that will be retained is Soul Rot. So yeah, the stamina enhancing, yeah, about Warlocks, again, not specialist here, so more relying on like thoughts of the guide riders. The stamina enhancing abilities introduced into the talent tree for Demonology Warlock will improve the overall tankiness of the build, yeah. The added flexibility of being able to take more utility functions instead of having to choose just one in the old talent system will also improve the viability of Demonology. It will remain a primarily single target build with strong AoE possibilities connected with the Felguard. And then Destruction Warlock doesn't benefit from a great number of changes in Dragonflight pre-patch, so neither gameplay nor utility will change much. This spec will need to make some difficult choices in the talent tree, as several high-level abilities such as Pandemonium or Rolling Havoc will shut out other abilities that were easily available before. Overall, the build is strong without, unlike some other builds, sacrificing simplicity and an easy to approach spec. So with Warlocks in general, their like general talent tree is very, very utility and self-sustain oriented and tanky oriented, which was definitely quite interesting specificity about the Warlocks, about like concretely about the Warlocks and like their style of the like talent tree. And yeah, as we can see, they probably wouldn't be bad, and they probably wouldn't be like maybe one of the best, but about one of the best we're gonna see. No like promises here, but yeah, Warlocks were just fine. Definitely no like bad stuff. Warrior changes in Dragonflight pre-patch. Arms Warrior has good bandwidth, being able to handle both single target damage and multi-target AoE with everything in between. In fact, its weakness lies probably in a relative inability to specialize as either a single target or AoE specialist. However, self-heals and survivability are improved through strong talents such as Impending Victory, Bitter Immunity, and Leashing Strikes, and not at the expense of stance or mobility. When combined with Venthir's Covenant Condemn in pre-patch, the Arms Warrior truly shines. Wait a second, doesn't we have other just name of Condemn in Warriors? Wait a second. Dragonflight talent calculator again. And here we want to look at like Warrior Arms. So we need probably our as well below targets. Yeah, that stuff we've had before. Rand, Vitality. Maybe it was made, or it was either maybe in general talent tree with you being able to use your execute on high health targets. Man, I'm probably not gonna find it right now, but don't we really have something like Condemn, but with our warriors? But definitely. Yeah, I don't really see it anywhere near here. Battle Lord, Fatality, or Mortal Strikes. Wait a second, I just need to look at it. Valorant Victory, Bladestorm. Bladestorm is active. Bladestorm again. Sharpened Blaze. Yeah, Critical Strike. Increase Execute causes the target to take more damage. Execute increases execute damage. Critical Strike, cooldown of Cleave. Impale. Sudden Death. Skull Splitter. Man, was I like... Am I wrong thinking that we can use our executes on high health targets and there was some talents on it, or they really somewhere around here, but I can't really... But no, why would you put it in your like general talent tree? Maybe like, yeah, okay, it's quite a shame that we don't have, but I'm not gonna comment on this because I've did this, like Warrior was my first talent trees and I've did them so long ago that yeah, I can't really, with all the other talent trees blending in my mind, I can't really remember. I guess we're gonna see in our next, videos when we're gonna test the gameplay of different specializations. Fury Warrior, okay, so yeah. Fury Warrior is somewhat hampered by a limited toolset despite their overall versatility. The two paths focus on either Raging Blows or Annihilator. They are able to switch more easily than other builds and specs between single and multi-target damage, but suffer from becoming a jack of all trades, master of none. The two builds don't differ significantly from one another in terms of single target versus multi-target damage. In all, the skill set seems undertuned at this point in the expansion. So, as you can see, Fury Warriors are a bit of lackluster, I guess, here. And Protection Warrior is currently the strongest tank in game. The pre-patch will just further drive this point home. While it doesn't feel significantly different in terms of playstyle, you will have more flexibility within the talents that eliminate the lost opportunity cost of the old talents. Put simply, there wouldn't be as many negative trade-offs. Between their competitive damage and excellent mobility, Protection Warriors are looking better than ever heading into Dragonflight patch. And that's good. So I guess Fury Warrior is one of the kind of losers in these situations, but we're gonna see. We're gonna see, I guess, and not everything is cemented in stone. General class talent tree, talent changes. You will be able to change your talents. Oh yeah, so that was your every class changes in the Dragonflight pre-patch and onwards, and now we have some additional information. You'll be able to change your talents at will for free with a few restrictions. Switching talents no longer requires going to a rested area or using tomes, which is great. However, you still will be unable to change talents during combat, run, M+ runs, or active PvP matches. All classes will begin with a preset starter talent trees for players who prefer not to choose their own talents, and that's just great because for some people they wouldn't really appreciate all the amounts of theory crafting that you need to put in the system. This will include the this may change the time, but want a decent build, yeah. These may be changed at any time, okay, yeah. Players will be able to use loadouts, which are saved talent builds so that you can switch to easily. This will include the following features: import, export saved action bars. Oh, nice. Unlearned talent history. Unlearning a talent high up in the tree may automatically unlearn lots of talents below. Okay, and search bar. For every class and spec, you will get 2 trees to fill. You'll get 2 trees to fill out: a general class tree and specialization talent tree. Yeah, you don't choose between these trees; you use them both, and you have different points for different talent trees. The class tree includes talents so that we know. Yeah, and then we know as well. Talents based on covenant abilities. So that means, yeah, if any like skills survived for the classes, it's not that interesting. Talents based on rune carving powers as well. So yeah, for our are we getting legendary powers? Yes, we are, and for most classes it's true. Class guides, which we will probably look at them after that. So yeah, that's our article from Wowhead. Thanks for watching this video. It's quite a lengthy one. Hope you enjoyed the content. Subscribe to the channel for more World of Warcraft and non-World of Warcraft coverage by me, Capcan. Have a good day. Goodbye.